Hi, my name is Miranda. My colleague Amanda and I are with the Office of Community Development for the City of Medford, and today we will be walking you through how to apply for our small business and micro enterprise grants. Our applications will open on Friday, November 20th, and will be open through December 7th. You'll be able to find the applications on the city's COVID-19 response page. So if you just click on this from the city's website, you'll be able to scroll down and see the business resources option. And there we will have our links to the grant applications. Once our grant applications are open, you will also be able to make appointments with staff for some help or to answer any questions at this link, calendly.com/medford-ocd. Once you click on this, you'll be able to set an appointment with myself or Amanda, and we'll be able to help answer any questions or help walk you through our application.
Okay, so I'm Amanda, the colleague, and we're going to be going through, there are two applications depending on the size of your business. So the first one that we're going to go through is for small businesses, and this means that your business has 6 or more employees, including any owners. We also have an application for micro enterprises, and those refer to businesses that have 5 or fewer employees, including any owners. So we'll start here. As you can see on the left-hand side, there are the directions. They just go over some basic things. I want to point out that we do have instructions printed out or available in Spanish. And for anyone who is looking for directions or materials in other languages, you're welcome to call our office here or email our office, and we can set that up for you. We just want to note that although we can provide translation services, the application itself will have to be submitted in English. And over here we have grant interview information. So basically, our general eligibility is that this is a Medford-based grant, so businesses can apply if they have a Medford address, or if the owner of the business is a Medford resident and the business isn't based out of a different municipality. So for example, if you have a business where it's virtual or you work from home and you're a Medford resident, then you're eligible to apply. The business must have been operating in the city of Medford for at least 6 months prior to the pandemic state emergency declaration, so 6 months from March of this year. If your business is currently closed, this grant is intended for businesses that are making a best effort to reopen or remain open. And if your business finds that they can't reopen and they've received this grant, then we ask that you work with the city to see if there are other options before closing permanently. And I just want to specify here that at this time, this grant is not open to folks that have already received the Medford grant in the first round. Yeah, and so that covers the basic eligibility. There's an additional layer of eligibility criteria that has to do with our federal source for this grant. HUD, the Housing and Urban Development Department, is the source for this grant, and they have certain guidelines that are needed to be met in order for folks to be eligible. So every business that applies has to meet what's called a national objective. And this can happen in one of 3 ways in the case of small businesses. First, at least 51% of full-time equivalent employees come from a low to moderate income household. This is the case if more than half of your full-time employees' annual salaries are less than $67,000 $67,400. The second national objective that could be met is an area benefit. It's called area benefit. It's when a business is located in a low to moderate income area that is also primarily residential, and that business primarily serves low to moderate income clientele. And the third way to meet this objective is if you qualify under something called urgent need. So the business is experiencing a particular urgency that poses a serious and immediate threat to the business as a result of the pandemic. And this objective may or probably applies to most businesses at this time, but we're actually limited in the amount of funding that we're allowed to allot to businesses that apply under this criteria. So we recommend, if there are other national objectives that apply to your business, that you apply under those objectives. Other criteria that the business must meet is that if you are receiving aid from other sources, whether that be, a PPP loan or, a regional grant of some sort, this aid can't duplicate the aid that you've already received. And we'll go over that more in a later section. And finally, for small businesses, this is particular to small businesses and not microenterprises, all applicants must meet what is called a public benefit standard. So this means that the small business must either create or retain one full-time job position that is to be held by a low to moderate income person. The job position must not require any special schooling beyond a high school diploma, and if it does require that, it has to be kind of brought into or provided training like on the job. And our applicant must provide some evidence that demonstrates that without this grant, this job position could be lost. So documentation required. These are the main things that we will need from everybody, regardless of what national objective you're meeting. And in addition to these things, we may need or request some other documentation. But essentially, first, a copy of your license to operate or a business license, or if applicable, a professional certification. A completed W-9 form, which you can reach at this link here. A copy of your lease, mortgage bill, or proof of ownership of the property that your business is located on. And we need payroll summary documents reflecting September 2019 to February 2020. Alongside that, we also need profit and loss statements reflecting that period of time. And lastly, we will need a DUNS number. If you think that you already have a DUNS number, but you're not sure what it is, you can look it up at this first link here. And if you do not yet have a DUNS number, you can apply for one and have it expedited and turned around to you within 24 hours by contacting through either this link or this phone number. And lastly, before we get into the application itself, we just want to mention that we would like to prioritize applications that are coming from, in which like these numbered things here apply. So if you're a woman-owned or veteran-owned or minority-owned business, if you have a brick and mortar store in Medford, and any of these other criteria here, there will be questions in the application, and we invite you to let us know if these apply to you. All right, so the application itself, this first section is just kind of, general information, fairly straightforward. So, you'd be typing in here the name of your business, address, if you have a website, and if you could describe what kind of business you have. This is very important. So as I mentioned earlier, to be eligible for this grant, you have to have not already received a Medford Small Business Relief Grant from the first round. So check that here. And we also want to know what reopening phase was your business considered a part of? When were you allowed to reopen? And so we've named the phases here up until phase 3 and provided dates. Applicant information. This section has to do with whoever is applying, so likely the owner of the business, although perhaps it could be like manager or someone else that's helping. So whoever that person is, you can also specify your role here. And yeah, we just have some stuff about how you would like us to contact you and what your information is for getting in touch. Business details. So in here we want to know who owns and how many people own this business. So let's say it's owned by 2 people. And then it just pops up with some more information here. So we're looking for, if you could provide the ethnicity or race of both of the owners, gender of both of the owners. And if you would like to specify some other minority status for the owners, you can here. And this here is just to make sure that if you have 5 or fewer full-time employees, you're actually not wanting to fill out this application. You want to fill out the Microenterprise grant application. So just make sure that this is for a small business with 6 or more employees. And yep, we're just looking for full-time employees versus part-time, the numbers there. So this section, we'll spend a little bit of time explaining. As I mentioned before, in order to be eligible for this grant, every business needs to meet a certain national objective. And so this section will allow applicants to go through and see if any of the objectives apply to their business. So for the first national objective, it's asking about the annual salaries of your employees at your business. So in this here, it says enter the number of employees who earn less than $67,400 annually at your business. And this is full-time employees. For any part-time employees who work at least 20 hours, they may be counted as half of a full-time employee and may be considered low to moderate income if they earn less than this amount here. So let's say you have 6 employees, but only 2 of them are making less than the $67,400. Put 2 here. Does the number of low to moderate income employees amount to 51% or more of your total employees? So 2 out of 6 is not 51%, it's less. So I'm going to put no. And that means that I don't qualify under this national objective. Then it brings you to the next option. Does the business primarily serve a low to moderate income community? So to see this, I'm going to click on the link provided. And hopefully you can see this loading. And so it's asking for you to look on this map and see, okay, is my business located within any of the orange areas marked here? So, maybe it's somewhere in this area. If that's the case, then this may apply to you. If not, then it may, we're going to go through the next national objective. So let's say that it is in one of those orange areas. You can click here. And this just asks you to explain, okay, you may be situated in a low to moderate income area, but do you feel that your business serves a majority of low to moderate income clientele, and why do you feel that way? So we just need more of an explanation. If your business is not located in one of the orange areas, or you feel like it doesn't serve primarily low to moderate income clientele, we click no here. and it's going to bring you to ask about the final national objective. So is your business experiencing a particular urgency that poses a serious and immediate threat to the business as a result of the pandemic? And let's say you feel that yes, it does. So in this section, we just ask you to describe how the grant funding will address the particular urgent need that your business is experiencing. If the answer is no, then unfortunately, you would not be considered eligible for this grant. All right, so this next section is called the Public Benefit Standard. As was mentioned earlier, for every small business applying for this grant, they have to either be retaining or creating a job position that's intended for a low to moderate income person. So here we kind of just ask for a little bit of information about what that position is. It has to be a full-time equivalent position. So if you're thinking, okay, maybe I would like to have 2 part-time, 20-hour per week positions, perhaps like 2 dishwashing positions, that's fine, as long as it equals up to 1 full-time equivalent position. And then here, have you already hired someone? Is there someone that fills this position already? In which case, great. We just need the information about that individual. And we'll eventually have to verify their income with you. And if not, that's also fine. We'll be talking with you about your plans to hire someone for this role. And lastly, this is actually very important. So we just need to hear from you about why this grant makes it possible for you to either retain or create this position. We need some sort of evidence that would suggest that without the grant, this position might be lost. Great, so the next section just has to do with tenancy information. Do you own the building that you do business out of, or are you a tenant, or do you not have a storefront? Have you requested and are you receiving any extensions, forbearance, forgiveness, or other relief from any source? So if you requested forgiveness for your rent for the past 2 months, we would want to hear about that here. And again, we just want to make sure that your business has been operating for at least 6 months prior to the pandemic, but we want to know, okay, has it been longer or between 6 months and 2 years? Great, so conflicts of interest, we just want to see, does the business owe any property taxes or fees to the city of Medford from before the declaration of the state emergency? If yes, we'll need a little bit more information about what's owed, and it may mean that you're not eligible, but it also may mean it also may not mean that. So we'll just need some more information. Oh, right. And so this here, just check if any of these things apply to you. Again, we'll just need a little bit more information about that. And we're kind of looking to see what other non-monetary business assistance you've received. So you can pick, multiple ones here. Okay, so I mentioned this towards the beginning. This section is called duplication of benefits. Essentially, we are just wanting to make sure that any funding that you've received from other sources is not being duplicated by this grant. So, for example, let's say that I've received a PPP loan that I am using to pay for payroll for the month of August. I cannot apply to this grant with the intention of also using it for payroll for the month of August. So that's basically what that's meaning here. Have you received funding from federal, state, local programs or from other sources? So if you haven't, then you just click that, and that's fine. If you have, that's also fine. We just need to know a little bit more about what what those other sources are and how you were using that funding. So let's say you got it from 2 other sources. We'll put the lender or grant program name here. So that was the PPP loan. How much did you receive from that program? When did you receive the funding? And how did you use those funds? So, example here, the PPP loan was used to cover payroll for June, payroll for July, and a portion of rent for July. And then again, so I mentioned, okay, I have it from 2 sources. Maybe this is an idle loan. And you just fill out that same information. Last question in this section is, have you applied for but not yet received funding from federal, state, or local programs? So let's say you've applied for a PPP loan, but you haven't heard back yet. You would just put that yes here. I have applied to 1 source of funding, and it just asks you for some of that similar information. If this is not the case, then you just click no, and you can continue on. Okay, so estimated adverse economic impact. Is your business currently open? Is what we want to know. So if you are still waiting to reopen, then you would click no here. If no, is this closing due to the governor's mandate, or is this your own choice? We just want a little bit more information there. Let's say you are currently open. Well, yes. Did the disaster economically impact your business? Yes. And then it kind of asks, okay, when did that impact start? Give a date here. Is the disaster still impacting your business? Yes. Or no. And then we just ask for a date here. When did it end? What were your business's revenues during that period? And if the disaster is still impacting your business, please provide the last 4 weeks of revenue. So let's say, okay, I feel like my business was impacted in March, and that impact ended sometime in June. Then we want to know for that period of time what your revenues were for this period. If I still feel like I'm being impacted economically by the pandemic, then we want to know, okay, in the last 4 weeks, what's your revenue been? And then for last year, for the same period of time, what were your business revenues? This offers us a way to compare and just see, how you're doing. And if, let's say, your business, there's something about the seasonality of it that impacts your business, or you have like a natural low during some certain parts of the year, or whatever it is. If you want to provide more information about that or more context, we encourage you to do so. Yes, these are some other simple questions. Did you receive any interruption insurance? And is the storefront that you operate out of, if you have one, currently closed? Say yes, no, or I do not have a storefront. And then are you offering alternative services? You can click, whichever one of these might apply to you. All right, this section, grant funding plans. So in this section, we just want to hear about how much money you're requesting and how you would intend to use those funds. So yeah, let's say, you can apply to up to $10,000. If you have a very specific amount that you don't see represented here, you can click other and put, 75. For example. And yep, if you just want to go through these questions, Specificity is really helpful to us. I know that, sometimes an exact dollar amount isn't you can't provide that information, but if you could give us the gist of, okay, I would like to use this grant to cover rent for these months, or, payroll for these months. It really helps us, especially if you break it down by a monthly expenses. And yeah, some other questions here about kind of the disaster, what the impact of the pandemic has had on your business, and any other information you'd like to share. And this is important here. So if you are not currently open, when do you plan to reopen your business? As I said, this grant is intended for folks that are wanting to reopen their business or remain open. So if you have no intentions of, if you're closed now and if you're considering permanent closure, this wouldn't be the right grant for you. And we're nearing the end here. So this is our file upload section. We have a list here of required documentation that was mentioned in the beginning. And then a couple of other things if they apply. So if you mention that you've gotten relief from or aid from other funding sources, we want documentation of that. If you, mention that you owe taxes or fees to the city, we would like some documentation of that. If you've received, certain extensions, forgiveness, or forbearance, we would like to, also have some documentation of that. And so you can just drag and drop files here from your computer or device. And great, so this is just our document checklist. It kind of just is our hope that you'll kind of go through and make sure you have everything that you need. We do want to reiterate that if for whatever reason you forget something or you're waiting on a document that might not come through by the deadline, that is okay. Let us know. So let's say, you're here, I have these things, but I don't have some of these things. There's a section down below that allows you to give us some context. So, I'm waiting on a statement from my landlord or whatever it is. You can talk to us about that here, and we can be in touch with you even after the application period closes, and figure that out together. And lastly, this certification and submission section. So if you, we just encourage and require that everyone read through this statement, and once they're done, if you want a copy of your responses, which I would recommend, you can check here and put your email address. And by submitting the application, you're acknowledging that you've read and agree to the terms in this certification and submission statement. Okay, great. So that's the gist of the small business grant application. As I mentioned, there's a microenterprise grant application, which we're not going to go through the entire thing, but I just wanted to point out a couple of key differences. Otherwise, the applications are very similar. So earlier we talked about the HUD eligibility. And having each business having to meet a national objective. So the options for meeting a national objective for microenterprise are, there's one extra option, which is this, that the owner of the business is from a low to moderate income household. And we help you determine if this is the case in the application. But if it is the case, we will need some sort of verification of the owner's income. And so, whether that be your 2019 tax returns, or we can make a form available to you that kind of just helps you demonstrate what your income is. Also, I want to mention that for a microenterprise, they do not have to worry about benefit standard, which means there isn't that need to create or retain a job position for a low to moderate income person. So just wanted to specify that. And yeah, other than that, it is a fairly similar application. Yep, just goes through here, all of the same stuff. And again, make sure to read the certification and submission statement at the end. Okay, I think that is all for today. Great, so I think this, concludes our demonstration video. If you have any questions about the application or the process, you're welcome to call our office here. We have the phone number or an email listed as well. If you want to set up an appointment with Miranda or I about, going through the application or again, addressing any questions you have, it's this link, calendly.com/medford-ocd. You can set up appointments with us. And yeah, we wish you the best.